We're glad you could join us. This is Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I am Bukola Cook, and we're reaching you live from Channels Television's global headquarters in Lagos. Here are our top stories. In continuation of the Eid-el-Kabir celebrations, President Tinubu is visiting traditional rulers in Ijebu-Ode, Ogun State. The Chief Judge of Taraba State laments the neglect of infrastructure in the state's judicial arm, calls on Governor Kefas to intervene. And those are images of President Bola Tinubu alighting from the shopper at the Dipo Dino Stadium in Ijebu-Ode to the waiting hands of top government officials at the state and national levels. To receive him, Governor of the state, Dapo Abiodun, accompanied by Chieftain of the APC and former Governor Segun Oshoba, the National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu, the President's Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, and other prominent All Progressives Congress leaders. This is a thank you visit to two prominent traditional rulers in Ogun State, including the paramount ruler of Ijebu land, Awujale Oba Sikiru Adetono, and the Alake and paramount ruler of Egba land, Oba Aremu Gbadebo. It's the first visit of the president since he assumed office on May the 29th as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, and also the first among a series of visits to traditional rulers. As lawmakers lobby for headship of different committees at the National Assembly, a former member of the National Assembly, Senator John Owaneno, has advised them to ensure they deliver on their campaign promises after attaining those positions. He says beyond the lobbying, there's a huge burden placed on the shoulders of the National Assembly to create laws that will benefit Nigerians. And we'll have that actuality shortly on the program. Parties involved in the pandemonium that occurred at the Osogbo Eid ground, that's on Wednesday, have been speaking on what led to the alleged attack on the #1 citizen of the state. Condemning the incident, the Chief Press Secretary to Osun State Governor Rasheed Olawale says that the state government is set to reorganize the security network around the governor to avert further reoccurrence. In his own account, Senator Ajibola Bashiru explains that no specific space was reserved for Governor Adeleke, as at the time he got to the Eid ground. He advocates for the police to carry out an in-depth investigation to unravel the facts of the scuffle. The parties were guests on our political program, Politics Today. More Nigerians have been reacting to the proposed hike in electricity tariff, and they've described it as a wrong timing. Across sections of citizens who spoke with Channels Television from Enugu, Jos, Port Harcourt and Kaduna argue that Nigerians are still trying to come to terms with the subsidy removal, which has resulted in the increment of prices of all goods and services, and that the proposed hike will only worsen the situation.
Really so unfortunate because we have not even digested the pain of the increment of the fuel, and then for the electricity company to decide to increase the tariff now is like a double blow on individual and business organizations.
So I'm looking at the inflationary rates and how it's going to impact us as residents of Enugu State. Considering just like one of the most available and staple foods in the Southeast, which is gari, which before now, like for a painter, sells for 900, is about 1,500. This certainly will still impact further on the cost of including foods and everything all around us as residents.
I think it is not the right approach now. We want the electorate, the PHED, to put on hold and then stop that process. We want PHED to reverse that decision. That decision will not help the economic situation of Nigerians. We are facing hardship, and we should not be introduced to additional hardship.
And we'll return to our story on the scuffle between the governor's orderlies during the Eid praying celebration in Osun State and the man accused of assassination, that's Senator Ajibola Bashir. In their account, Senator Bashir explains that no specific space was reserved for Governor Adeleke, as at the time he got to the Eid ground. He advocates for the police to carry out an in-depth investigation to unravel the facts of the scuffle. Both parties spoke on our political program, Politics Today.
I did not see any seat earmarked for Governor Adeleke. I did also not see any protocol of the governor. I did not also see any advance party. I sat in my place. Then a moment after I've been on my seat, one man came and brought talks, seeking to evacuate me from where I was sitting. And of course, the people around the place, as you see from the video you have shown, amateur video, I just saw your TV station, rally around and say it would be unacceptable to get me to leave where I was sitting. So I don't know where and who are saying that a particular seat was reserved for the governor.
What we notice when we enter is that we enter into a trap. In addition to the issue of taking over the governor's seat, we notice armed, strange-looking guys positioned all over strategic positions within the Eid ground. When we saw that, when we enter, we thought, well, maybe they are security people. But at the time we enter and we are right close to the front of where we are supposed to pray, we noticed that these people are armed. And while we were watching over that, it was at that point we noticed the commotion, which is being shown here now. So we quickly said to the governor, oh, the security people said, no, let's go back to the car. We're going to secure the governor. We did that. Chief Bidmos and others came. I said, don't worry, everything is calm. By the time we come out again, those strange-looking people were encircling where the governor was staying, including the team. It was at that point we noticed that this is beyond ordinary, and we need to move. And that's why quickly we ferried the Gulf into the jeep, surround the jeep, and from there we left. And whatever Senator Ajibola will say, as of today, he has gone to the police, and I know the police will take up the matter.
The judicial arm of government in Taraba State is asking Governor Abu Kefas to intervene in rejuvenating and empowering the judiciary to function as a watchdog of the society for speedy dispensation of justice to all. At a courtesy visit on the governor, the chief judge of the state, Joel Agia, lamented the dilapidated courtrooms that they operate in, stressing that most of the magistrates, upper area courts and area courts outside the state capital are sitting in rented apartments with threatening quick notices. According to him, judicial officers in Taraba State lack official vehicles. They do not go for annual vacations, workshops, seminars, and they also lack running costs. After listening to their plea, the governor assures of his unflinching support to ensure optimum functioning of the judicial arm of government in the state.
Courts, upper area courts and area courts outside Jalingo are sitting in rented apartments. And most of them have been given quick notices by their landlords. It is our prayer that, Your Excellency, you look into this, because if somebody goes to a court hall that is dilapidated, whether he gets justice, he will not even know that what he has gotten is actually justice.
I'm here to assure you of my cooperation
and I will do all my best to make sure that the judicial arm of government function the way it's supposed to function. And I want to assure you that the area of your mobility, official vehicle, which is mandatory, your accommodation, and even the court that you are renting, we are going to build new courts in all those areas. So what you need to do is to put all your necessary proposal together. So I will look at it together and start immediately. In fact, I will support you to go on your vacation so that you refresh. I'll come back and function. So by the time you come back, me too, I'll go my own. I want to plead that you also be patient with us. Point out to us whatever you feel that we're supposed to do, we're not doing. But what we need to do correctly, we're not doing it correctly. Please don't hesitate. We are to check one another so that we can balance the system.
Well, the difficulty is not just in Taraba State Judiciary, but is experienced across the land as Nigerians, faced with the real realities of fuel subsidy removal and the possibility of an electricity tariff hike, which stands uncertain. Joining us to look at the rising cost of living is Dr. Afolabi Olowo-Kere, an economist who joins us via Zoom. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Olowo-Kere.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Indeed. It's nice to have you. Just yesterday, we saw the report from the World Bank in its Nigeria Development Update, wherein it announced that 7.1 million more Nigerians are at further risk of poverty due to the removal of fuel subsidy, swelling the already 133 million Nigerians in multi-dimensional poverty. I wonder if you sense that the new administration is receiving this report with the urgency that it requires.
Okay. Once again, thank you very much. As we all know, any policymaker is fully aware that there is always a positive and negative impact of any policy. You want to solve a problem, it's just like taking antibiotics for a particular problem, but it also has its own side effects. So we have to believe and also have the confidence that the current governments understand that these are some of the fallouts of some of these policies. If you increase food prices as a result of first subsidy removal, if you do something in adjusting the exchange rates, and we are also having electricity tariff to rise, we all know the impacts on the lives of the citizens. So whether they take it with a sense of urgency or not, they just have to. And I'm sure the advisors are definitely aware of some of these impacts. And they definitely must also be working on how to ameliorate some of this impact. Having listened to them, sometimes they mention about what they can do about palliative to people so that they can reduce the impact on the poorest of the poor. The only challenge with that is the extent of which that can be done. Many of those people can actually be targeted, and whether the quantum of the amelioration packages will be enough to solve some of the problems. Those are the issues that we need to look at. But are these decisions to be taken by the country? Definitely, yes. The country has to take some tough decisions. The dosage is always the problem of how should you combine them? Should you do one before the other? Should you face them? Can you combine them in what sequencing? And I think some of those are the issues that the government need to deal with. So whether they are aware, I'm very sure they are aware of this. They also go to markets. And the government definitely also has some purchases to make. I'm sure by now procurements in different ministries or NDAs generally would have reflected the impact of this increase in prices. So they are aware, and definitely must do something about it, especially for a new government that should be responsive to the plight of people.
Yes, indeed. We'll talk about what should be done about it. But then again, there's that possibility of, a further increase in the price of fuel due to the fact that importation is continuing and it's in dollars. And, the electricity service providers are also saying that, look, our service is denominated in dollars. So inevitably we have to increase electricity tariff. Amid all of this, Nigerians are depending on labor for some sort of intervention. Amid the negotiations, that seem to be experiencing a lull at the moment, do you think labor is pulling its weight enough? And, what should Nigerians expect from labor in terms of representation of their interests?
So in this type of situation, labor has no choice but to ask for salary increase, wage increase. Wage increase, sometimes when you try to do some of the things that the government has done, they have positive impact on prices. In other words, they increase prices. If you then also increase wage rates, you also then order for the increase in prices. That doesn't mean that wage rate should not be increased. Because once people then have more money, then they spend more money, and then you then have economic getting doubly inflated. But in all fairness to labor, if you look at, if you have inflation at 22.4%, continuously compounding that, it's less than in 4 years or 4.5 years, it implies that prices on the general level are doubling. And if prices are doubling almost in 4 years or 4.5 years, I think the basket of what consumers consume, then wages are not doubling. It then implies that the purchasing power of consumers or the households are falling drastically in the country. So whoever negotiated with you about 5 years ago, giving you 100,000 naira or 30,000 naira, it's almost like that 30,000 naira can do what 5,000 or 2,000 was able to do from 5 years ago. So definitely labor will request for a wage increase. But the other issue we then have to look at is what is the proportion of that in the total number of persons that work in the country. So the country probably has almost about 90 million in terms of the labor force. Maybe about 62 million of those people are working, and not all of them are working in places where government is able to increase their wage. And definitely there are some that are working in other places, but not everybody is able to tap into this wage increase. But what will definitely happen is that once labor collects higher wages, people that are also selling things will also find a way of collecting more of that. So adding to salary, raising prices are not necessarily the solution in the long run. In the short run, we may be able to get away with some of this, but in the long run, we should be talking about things that can actually lower cost of living for industry in terms of cost of business, or cost of doing business, or cost of capital, and also lowering cost of consumption and the rest of it. So labor will definitely request for increase in wages, but that doesn't sustainably address the problem because prices will definitely go up. Then we are back to square one. So I think government then needs to do a lot of things to make sure that people don't feel the impact of some of this. If there are things that people are spending money on that are not necessary, or that government can provide, and then they save their money, the government should be looking into such areas.
Very quickly, just before we wrap up on this, the president has called for sacrifices from Nigerians at this time, such that, it can get us to where we're headed. But then again, Nigerians are also saying that what sacrifices, will the leaders be making as well? What are you proposing? What areas should, the federal government and the subnationals, be looking at in terms of sacrifices from the leaders as well, to lead by example at this point in time?
Okay, so sacrifice is a very important thing. I mean, we are also in a system where things are sacrificed. But you also want to be sure that at the end of sacrifice, your effort is not in vain. So I think government needs to give that assurance, and government needs also to build that trust. People may say that they've sacrificed in the past, but are they able to benefit from their sacrifice? So that is very important for government. So don't let people down. It's a very important thing. That's the first part. The other part, in terms of what the government can do, as we are increasing prices, if you do business in Nigeria, there are kind of number of people at the federal government, state level, local government, even community level, that also harass people, collect more money, taxes, all sort of levies and the rest. So government should also look into such harmonization of taxes, levies that people pay. Are there things that can be imported that can be cheaper than domestically produced without necessarily stifling manufacturing production? Those are some of the analysis that can be done. So government needs to find a way of making sure that we don't attack people on several fronts. There's a level to which people can sacrifice. The third point is that people have argued that severally, even though I'm not sure Nigeria has made a lot of efforts. I was in a meeting when they were looking at the Osaye reports, and he probably said we should have fewer MDAs, but now we now have even far more MDAs than we had when the recommendation was made. So how do we reduce cost of governance is very important. Allowances paid to people, pensions to people, especially political office holders. How do we make sure that those things are drastically reduced? Without necessarily cutting the number of people that are employed, but are there things that we can do to reduce leakages? Are there automations that can be done at the level of government so that things don't leak into the pockets of people? I think that is very important. But leadership by example, when people see that the leaders are also sacrificing, the followership can also sacrifice. But we also don't want to enter a room and find the person that says you should not eating a big bowl of chicken or banana.
Indeed, Dr. Olorike, your analysis on cost of governance, of course, throws up another debate, with the introduction of new nomenclatures into the federal government's cabinet, which is sure to swell up government's wage bill. But don't answer that. We must leave it there for now. Thank you very much. Dr. Afolabi Olowokere is an economist who joined us via Zoom. Thank you for your time on Lunchtime Politics.
Thank you.
More stories now. While many Nigerians may understand the positive long-term impact of the removal of fuel subsidy and the single currency exchange regime, they still worry about the immediate impact of the policy decisions. To address this concern, however, the newly inaugurated National Economic Council has been mandated to work out palliatives to cushion the impact of the fuel subsidy removal on citizens. In this next report, our State House correspondent Kayla Megwa looks at the task before the National Economic Council, headed by the Vice President Kashim Shettima. And more on the Eid-el-Kabir festivity, the prevailing economic situation may have adversely affected the way the less privileged marked the event. In Ogun State, some persons who usually receive loads of supplies from kind-hearted Nigerians during the festive period said they were left less to be desired this time around.
It's Eid-el-Kabir celebration. The market is full, but it appears only a few can afford what is available. The situation cuts across board, even for the less privileged. Ordinarily, these ones under the Arepo Bridge would have had a lot of supplies, but the case seems different.
When we are doing Salah like this, people that bring food for them, but this time around, they don't bring it for them again. Even those people that is there, some people 2 days they have never eat. People they are just suffering, see everywhere.
They wait to see if anyone would remember them, so they could feed and be part of the festivity.
Wallahi, I know they bring her now, but before then they bring her anytime. Wallahi, but now they know they bring her.
They don't bring anything. For now, Salah no bako. They bring something. I be rice. I be anything we bring. You carry on going here. Go chop.
The situation is not different at Magboro. It's already past 2 p.m. There is still no provision in sight for these women and their sucklings. Suddenly, there appears a glimmer of hope. Someone remembers them. He hands them the magic could afford and wishes every Nigerian imbibes the spirit of oneness.
All you have to do is just to give thanks to God that no matter what, God is in our side. And I want one thing to encourage Nigerians. Let's look at ourselves as one. Not the matter of, I'm a Christian. Don't let us look at the way, this is Muslim, this is a Christian. We are all one Nigeria and we remain forever like that to make Nigeria move forward.
The essence of the Eid-el-Kabir celebration is to propagate the virtue of sacrifice. While the present-day economic realities may be less desirable, Nigerians are still expected to remain their brother's keeper.
And so it doesn't matter how much you have, so it's each one reach as many as possible in the spirit of the season. We wish you a happy Eid celebration as you continue to observe the celebration. That's our package on the program today. You have been served. Join us again same time tomorrow when we bring you another edition. I am Bukola Koka. Bye for now.
From the north to the south, east and west, network